And we're live. What's up, killers? It's May Day on 2024. Looks, in general, they tell me that the crypto markets are down. I haven't paid a ton of attention to those. Usually I just check my phone in the morning and see what the markets are doing, but I don't actually do anything with it, so it doesn't seem to matter that much. And then let's see what else is going on. This might be a shorter show. Joey's going to be on a little bit late. Let's see. We got the Rabbit R1. So this guy right here came in the mail on Monday. I've been farting around with it. It's a fun thing. So let's see if I can turn it on for you. Yep, 9 o'clock. Great, I'm on time. If you double click, I think it'll show you some video. Yep, there it is. I think if you scroll the scroll wheel, it'll switch it around. So now you're looking at my setup. And then you can ask it whatever you want. So however you want to use the thing. Pretty straightforward. If you guys have anything you want me to ask it on the show, I'm happy to do that. But I've been messing around a little bit with like, hey, you know, what am I having for breakfast, or how many calories are in something, or, you know, what is that plant? It's getting the fig trees right. It gets other plants wrong. It's not super accurate on breakfast. I'd say, like, overall, it's not the AI in a box that I think we all want. But I also think for $200 and a super, super fast rollout, pretty amazing thing. I know I saw it in January. I think Vordal dropped it on the GK AF group, and I was like, oh, that's cool. It'll probably sell out fast, and I bought one. So I just got on the first batch, the tail end of the first batch. But January to what is it, end of April, so pretty much May. As far as from the time, I don't think they had any in January, and they produced all of those and got them out the door to people, and they work. Not great, but they work. Yeah, it's pretty fast, especially from my limited experience in the crypto field, where it can take a year or two to get hardware in your hands. So I thought the whole thing was pretty cool. They pushed an update on something like day one for me. So the day after I got it, there was an update that made the battery life better, and they list a bunch of stuff in their Discord. I just think it's cool that they're doing their thing. Yeah, crushing. So that was, yeah, there's a bunch of YouTubers talking about those things. I'm actually considering not doing as much YouTube, or at least getting my face off this thing, which is funny to say since I'm running this head talking weekly show, but there it is. Yeah, I think a ton of YouTubers talking about it. There's, you know, there was a giant promise that they were going to be this amazing AI assistant, and you could train them and all this stuff, and they had teach mode and et cetera, et cetera. None of that really works. I think they've got 4 apps right now. Marquez did a good job of detailing those apps. So it's more of a fun thing. Oh, here comes Joey. Let's see if I can switch it in to be... Ooh. Not Travis at Undisclosed, but it'll be Joey. Hang on a second, Joey. I'll get you in here. There we go. And then let me see if I can change this. What's up, dog?
Hey, morning.
Good morning.
Hear me okay?
Yeah. Got you 5x5.
Cool. It's been a couple of weeks.
It's been a hot minute, yeah. What's going on with you, dude? I saw a couple pieces of news in Helium. Nothing crazy that I saw, at least on the announcement stuff. But you were, and maybe you still are, in Germany or in Europe somewhere.
No, I am home.
Back home, okay. That's not the Deutsche Gebrauchensaufen outside your window.
Nope. Whatever that is. Yeah. No, I was in Europe for 3 weeks. So we did 2 conferences, and then in between I got to spend some time at a university, give like a lecture, workshop, that kind of fun stuff. So
super cool.
Yeah.
What'd you learn? Anything good? Anything that you're psyched on, or you're still recovering from 3 weeks?
I'm both. Geez, where to start? So the 2 conferences we did, one was Embedded World, and Embedded World is in Nuremberg. It's, you know, IoT stuff. It's 5G embedded. Like it's just sensors, everything like you can imagine. It was a really cool event for us. A lot of leads that I'm going to be following up on, trying to, like, you know, build relationships for IoT network users.
Sure.
But the kind of cool meta thing that I was seeing in there, I think something that I'm really excited about, particularly for LoRaWAN, is this idea of energy harvesting. So we've seen little bits of this in dev kits and maybe some devices here and there.
Yeah.
But the ability to build a sensor that never has to be serviced because it has no battery or never needs to be plugged in.
Sounds pretty good.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a couple of new manufacturers for solar panels. Of course, EPs is sort of a key player in this that does sort of the energy management piece with an IC. And starting to see a couple of manufacturers like build end solutions in this direction, but a lot of it was like 3D printed. It was like very early.
Sure.
So yeah, people are just getting rolling in that domain. So excited to sort of see that take off. I think it's probably also a big opportunity for like builders in the helium community looking at that kind of stuff.
And this
I
is
think that,
like a part of the whole super cap thing that I'm seeing in the AF crew. We're like, oh, I'm putting this whatever 𝐒𝐻𝐬𝐫𝐬𝐡𝐢𝐩 thing on here and a little solar panel and the rest of it.
Yep. Yeah, I picked up a little dev kit. So it was a solar panel, yay big.
Yeah.
Gotta find the camera. And then
This big.
had a, yeah, there you go. Yeah. And it had a supercapacitor on there. It was a 0.4 farad supercapacitor, so relatively small.
Yep.
And all the electronics to kind of make it easy to just plug something in. And I plugged in a cube cell, standard off, just straight up dev board.
Shocking.
Didn't do
you
any.
have one at hand.
I always within reach.
Yeah.
They're super handy. But no special code, no deep sleep, nothing like that. Plugged it in, had it send packets every couple of seconds, and it sent 43 messages before that supercapacitor was depleted. And then it was just, that was like a really fast turn. We were just trying to see how quick we could drain it.
Yep.
And then, from there, it's just, design some software that does the deep sleep, sends an uplink every, 20 minutes or something like that, or longer. And then, make sure you have enough energy to last the night.
So this is really like the kind of long drawn out story that Amir was talking about back at the beginning of Helium, where he's saying, look, sensors take time, hardware is hard. Is we're just now seeing, even 3 years later, 4 years later, we're now seeing like, okay, we're getting to the point where you can start to have millions or billions of sensors that are all easy to use and they don't require maintenance and the rest of it. And we're not there yet, but I can see the progress certainly from when I started like looking for sensors, and there's just, one or two companies in Germany, funnily enough. And it's like, oh yeah, we've got a sensor for moisture, soil moisture, and it's $600. And now you can get them, for $5 or $3 or whatever. So, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
The pieces are falling into place. The one detail on this is like, it's a solar panel, right?
Yep.
And, normally we're thinking, go put it on a pole outside. I can do some smart agriculture stuff. These are designed for indoor use. And so you're working just off of like ambient light or, indoor lighting, which is,
will they
like
break if you put them outside? I got something where it's like, don't put this solar panel outside. It's for whatever reason.
Yeah. So some of these, they're like an organic, like printed solar panel. And so some of them will deteriorate if you put them outside. And generally the way these manufacturers are solving that is they're putting like another polymer layer over that panel.
The old double polymer trick. All right.
Yeah. Double wrap it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Badass.
Yeah.
I use that trick with peanut butter sandwiches on long hikes. So there's no sense in saying that you can't do that for solar panels. All right, cool. So that was the embedded stuff in Germany. What else did you do?
Yeah. So I'll go chronological, I guess.
Yep.
In Sweden, I got to meet with the team behind srcful. So this is a sort of energy VPP project.
Yep.
And got to learn way more than I ever knew about how the energy grid works. That just really, really sharp team. These guys, they all know each other from being professors at a university in Kalmar. And so they're domain experts in this stuff, which is really cool. But yeah, I got to be there when they shipped their first 50 hotspots through Rack, and I think they sold out really quickly.
Nice. Yeah.
So they partnered with Rack to get that first set together. And effectively, this gateway just sits on a network or is plugged into an inverter on a solar system, and is able to read and actually ultimately control that inverter to help manage the balance, manage the load on the grid.
Oh, cool. Super cool. I've seen those guys forever. And it seemed like, and maybe this is just me, like I didn't see them doing a ton of stuff, but it sounds like they've been just working, but probably not posting on social that much, or I've missed it.
Yeah, they've also been, split time. I think they've been still teaching, but they're sort of moving
They got
into
real
this
jobs.
world of, well, soon, hopefully their real job will be this project.
Okay.
But yeah, the really crazy thing that made everything click for me in this was I got there, we had like a dinner at his house, and we pull up in his Tesla and he plugs it in. He's like, I'm going to get paid 60 cents per kilowatt hour to charge my car right now because there's a surplus of energy on the grid. And that's just not something that we tend to think about a lot of the time. But the grid, you need to generate energy, but then you have these days. So it was sunny and it was windy and it was the weekend. So you didn't have heavy industry leveraging the excess energy on the grid. The windmills were going nuts, and then everyone's solar panel was at like full tilt. And so, yeah, that the grid needed to dump energy, and no better way to do it than for him to plug in his car and like charge it.
That's super. And is that kind of a Sweden specific thing? I know here in San Diego, they seem to be really strict on the hours. And they've got specific plans for if you have an electric vehicle, like we got our little electric Golf, and they're like, oh, if you charge it between midnight and 6, we'll give you cheap rates. If you charge it between, 6 p.m. and 10 p.m., we'll charge you triple because that's when everyone is charging.
California deals with the same thing. He actually pulled up some charts because I was like, different grids, different systems, different laws. But yeah, you actually see all of the pricing dips in the same sort of way for California. We just see it more obfuscated by the plans that like Pacific Gas and Electric puts us into.
God bless those people. That's the government doing good work. Don't get me. Fuck, this last 2 weeks I've had some interactions with the government and efficiency, and it's been frustrating.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what are you going to do? All right, cool. So you went to Germany, went to Sweden, and then you went back to somewhere, or you flew home from there?
Back to Germany. The last stop here was Hanover for Hanover Messe, which is a big sort of industry event. Everything from halls full of titanium washers and gaskets to, explosion-proof motors and all sorts of stuff in between. But we were there. The LoRa Alliance was there. And then we shared a booth with 𝐒𝐩𝐬𝐡𝐢𝐩 and Uplink Network, who just launched their LNS.
Right
awesome guys. And also awesome shirt.
Nice.
There
Miroslav, still crushing. I like that guy.
He's still crushing. So great to spend some time with them, talk to a sort of different set of network users, and, continually sort of like making those relationships, but less on the like, oh, cool, here's this like hardware trend, because it was much more like heavy industry focused.
Okay.
But, yeah. And then, then it was home from there. So
nice.
Very exciting 3 weeks.
It's super cool to see kind of behind the curtain on that stuff. Just see what's going on and see kind of the full breadth of what's happening in an industry. We tend to get trapped on as funny as it sounds, trapped on the internet, where it's like you just see what you can find and you don't really know what to look for. And it's very different to be walking down a booth and be like, well, I didn't think that they're, hitting tomatoes with lightning 7 times a day. And look, they're growing bananas with it. I'll be damned. You don't even know to look for this stuff. So,
yeah.
Super cool.
And also just like good to be out in the world. Like we would come across people that set up helium hotspots 2 years ago, and they're like, oh, you guys are still around. Like they just,
you're not dead. I'll be damned.
Well, yeah, but like unless you're in the crypto sphere of like communications or like, going out and looking for this stuff, it's actually a bit challenging to stumble across. It was, something that we came back and had some conversations within Foundation is like, how can we start to change this narrative a bit?
Yeah.
But all in all, like, it's awesome to meet those people face to face, and they're like, oh, cool, you guys are out here doing stuff, and like the thing's going, and I'm going to go home and double check my hotspot.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Always cool to meet those folks in person.
Yeah, I always like it. See what they're doing. I've had I had a dude reach out the other day who had consulted with me 3 years ago, and he's now in charge of an enormous set of building projects. Like, they're building stuff over 30,000 acres. They're basically building entire, not even subdivisions, but I guess like one step
like
bigger
cities.
than subdivisions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they put him in charge. I think he's the head of innovation there. And they're like, hey, what do you think we should do? And he's like, well, we should probably check out this helium thing. And so it's neat to think that helium starts getting built into these projects that take, in some cases, 60 years to build. So kind of cool.
Wow. Yeah. Put those sensors up now, and then you got the data later. So
yeah, I think that's it. Is it's like, all right, this is the smart city stuff. Like, this is how it gets built. It doesn't get built the minute that you learn about it. It gets built 5 to 10 years later when the roads are getting laid and the poles are going up and everything's getting wired up. So cool to see.
Right. Yeah.
All right. I know, Joe, you
more
want me to break this thing in half. I don't think I'm going to do it. It's so beautiful, and I'm so nervous about breaking the thing, and I don't want to fuck around with buying another one.
Yep. Can we get it to do part of the show?
I don't think I can do that yet. Yeah. It's not it's not everything that I think the audience wanted it to be, but it's been fun. I've treated it like I'm starting to treat it like an in-house comedian, where I'm like, hey, what's this? And it just gets it completely wrong. You're just like, nice. There's this. Lee shows me this. I think it's a TikTok or Instagram of this guy in New York who'll go around and ask people super basic questions, like how many states in America, or what are the, what state is across the Pacific Ocean, and no matter what people say, he'll just say correct. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like, hey, when was Leonardo da Vinci born? Like, 1987, and he lived in New York City. Like, correct. So
you could probably do
just a full comic relief.
Full mirror of TikTok of that. You should get it to identify some, bakery goods from the shop, and then
it actually did a good job of that. I did a thing where you end up saying like, hey, what am I looking at? And it's got a little camera, and the camera zips around. And I showed it a box of paleo treats that were packed, and it did a pretty good job. It's like, oh, these are obviously treats for the paleo diet. I got a couple things wrong, but I think the thing I've actually been impressed with is the amount of information it can pick up from the camera when it comes to text. And I'd say if you're watching this and you have one and you haven't discovered this yet, that was something that was actually really impressive. Is it just on a kind of snapshot? Like, it's the best of what you'd think of as a photographic memory from the movies, right? Where you always see like the heroes, sees a page and then he's like, oh, you want to know the 19th word on that and the 7th comma? It's the same kind of thing where it'll take that picture and then it'll scan it super quickly and upload the whole thing. Be like, oh yeah, it's got whatever goji berries in this, and goji berries are made in Malaysia. Like all that stuff, it kind of connects some dots there. So the text scanning capabilities are pretty strong.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Like, you start to realize, I mean, as humans, we've had eyeballs forever, but we have to look at something for so long to actually understand what's going on. You can show a computer a thing in a fraction of a second. It's got all the information it needs.
Yep. Yeah, and it's neat to be, I feel a lot like the early days of helium with this, where, in fact, this is much earlier, but like no one really understands it. No one kind of gets it and sort of like, this thing's bullshit. I can do the same thing with, and helium's like, I can do the same thing with Wi-Fi. Why do I need that thing? I can do it with Bluetooth. It's like, we just don't understand yet. And I think even maybe the folks way out at the edge, the guys running the Rabbit company, understand it. But for normal people, you're like, why don't you just use a phone app? We don't have a great, strong answer for that yet, other than just use the thing, fuck around with it, see what happens, and you'll figure it out. And I think that's kind of what is going on.
I think people get frustrated when something feels a little overhyped. Like there's revolutionary pieces in all of these products, right? Like Humane didn't build this company, another AI pin thing, right?
Yep.
they didn't do it just because they're like, oh, we're going to do like this AI thing. They saw that like the next step for like the human interaction with these devices is not
Yep.
a phone. And I think there really is something to that, like the ability to interface with an AI through a camera instead of having to like chat GPT and try and explain yourself every time. Like that's removing those sorts of layers is definitely like the trend forward.
Yep. And the other thing I saw, and this just happened last night, Lee is on this Leonardo da Vinci kick. So she's reading all these Leonardo books, and every night I get a short discourse on something else amazing about Leonardo. And apparently at some point he wrote this thing called a Codex Leicester, which is spelled Leicestershire, but the fucking English pronounce it Leicester. And it's something, and I just asked, she was like, hey, who owns the Codex Leicester and where is it? And I asked the rabbit, and it was, this is going to sound super lazy, but instead of like turning on my phone and finding an app or finding even Google and typing it in or talking it in, I just picked this thing up and I was like, hey, who owns the Codex Leicester? And it'll sit there and...
Looking it up now.
There you go. It takes a second.
The Codex Leicester, also known as the Codex Leicester, is a rare manuscript by Leonardo da Vinci that was purchased by Bill Gates in 1994 for $30.8 million. It is considered one of the most important scientific journals authored by da Vinci, focusing primarily on his thoughts relating to water and the relationship between the moon, the earth, and the sun. The manuscript is written in da Vinci's famous mirror image style and contains sketches, diagrams, and early iterations of ideas.
Maybe I'll see if I can turn it off. Yeah. So
Correct.
it'll keep going. Yeah, correct. Oh, fucking hey, stop.
Oh, she's still going.
They don't fucking quit, that rabbit. So it's like that
And
kind
it's
of
pretty
stuff
cool though.
where you have, let me turn it off. You have almost instant responsiveness to your question. I think that leans in super hard to the impatient generation that most of us are becoming. And that may be the thing that makes it like, oh, you know what it does? It saves you like 7 seconds. And right now it's like, that's so stupid. But you get to the point where you're like, all right, fuck, I got to turn on my phone. I got to put in the passcode. It's got to see my face. Then I got to go find the app and do the thing. Is that thing maybe like, oh, fuck it, I just ask it.
I mean, there's a meme here, right? Like, let me Google that for you. Like most people just want to ask the thing. They don't want to go like research a thing.
Oh,
And
Kevin's asking. Let me ask Siri. So here's the thing. I got to turn on my phone, open it up, and then I'll see if Siri's on. Hey, Siri, what's the Leicester codec?
Just gonna fail.
I think she just said, Hey, Siri, what is the Leicester codec and where is it? Yeah, so I think right there, like that's the thing. There's a bunch of results that came up on the page, but that's probably the difference is it's just fucking easier. Like that thing will answer, this thing will answer anything right away in human language, where this thing, you have to still do some, fuck around interfacing. So.
Yeah. For what it's worth, Siri is probably like the worst like comparison.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's
not quite evolved in a while, but I'm sure they're working on it. But.
Yeah. If there's another app, like I'm happy to do whatever comparison things on here. Cause I think it's funny where it's like, oh, it's just like this. And you try, it's like, fuck, it's not like that. And Kevin, 100% appreciate you on here and pointing out, cause I wouldn't even have thought to ask Siri and see that it's that badly. And then you have to use Apple. Yeah. Yeah. I like Apple. They seem to work pretty well for me.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Liam mentioned this thing, the SenseCap Watcher. So, there's the Rabbit, there's all these different form factors. So Seed was showing off this new device that is kind of a little Rabbit thing. It's got a screen, it's got a camera, it's got microphones. And so they've been building that out as their sort of own platform for an AI agent, which is pretty cool to see. So I got to see a couple demos of that. And you pointed at something, see how many people are in this, frame. It'd tell you. So cool to see some of that stuff happening sort of within, the ecosystem of folks we tend to talk to.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, 619 said, take a picture of something, how long it takes. So this is something, I'll just fuck around. We'll do one last thing on the route, and I've got some other news, but this thing is like, it's in my goddamn hand and fun and funny. All right, so double click to turn on the camera, and then I'll ask it. So I'll take a picture, hold the whole kind of screen in here, and just say, Hey, Rabbit, what are we doing here on the screen?
Let me see. The screen shows a video conference or live stream titled State of the Networks. It features two people who appear to be participating in or discussing this event. There are also some informational details and icons displayed around the video feed. I can describe what I see on the screen, but I cannot identify or name any of the individuals shown.
Okay. I actually don't know if you can keep talking to it. I think it said something about having, it doesn't have memory, it doesn't record something. It certainly uploads it to what it calls a journal. So I can go into, I think it's like whole.rabbit.tech and review anything I asked it. But yeah, so that's the Rabbit. The thing's kind of fun. And for $200, fuck, that seems like super cheap to me for that.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool thing to play with.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, what's the Portuguese nature conservation thing? I saw you did a thing on that. I think we've talked about that before. That's the links.
Yeah, we talked about that a while back. That was Green Metrics did the trackers on the links. So yeah, the comms team over at Foundation thought it was a fun little soundbite, so they threw together a little snippet of the state of the network.
Oh, they pulled this thing. That's right. Yeah, I just saw it in the DPU5 stuff over on the GK server, but I forgot that there's actually a reference to this show. My bad.
Yep, you were in the video.
Yeah. I was like, hey, how do they get that? I'm like, oh, I probably give them permission for that at some point. Who cares? Like anything I do to help helium change my life, that's cool with me.
Yeah, we made sure it pointed back to the show too, I think. So
yeah. We've got a good relationship. Let's see. Yeah. Have you seen this Umbrel OS thing? UMBREL?
Have not, no.
So I got turned on to it because I was looking into Ordinals, Inscriptions, and Runes, which are like all Bitcoin NFT things that I saw on Twitter. Everybody kept saying, what's the stupid thing you say on Twitter? Study this. And I saw these people saying study Ordinals, study Runes, study. I was like, all right, well, I'll go look and see what these fucking things are. And watched a couple podcasts with this dude, Casey something or other. Wrote him to, I don't know, like the Bitcoin people would be like, how do you not know this guy? He's Jesus. But yeah, I looked it up and I was like, oh, I'd like to run a Bitcoin node. Not mine it, but just run a node. And this Umbrel OS thing makes it super easy. If you've got a Raspberry Pi, and you can get into the command line, which you should be able to do if you've got a Pi. It's a one copy paste line. It installs the whole thing, and then you just go to a URL on your local network, and it's got the whole OS for you. It's a pretty cool thing. Then you click on, you're like, I want to click on standing up a Bitcoin node or a Lightning node or whatever, and it just makes the whole thing super, super easy. That was Umbrel old? Yeah. I'm getting to it now. And I know I talked to the guy who recommended it was Gray Hat Guy, and he hadn't run one for a year, and he's like, oh, I'll run one because I had some problems with it. He's like, dude, they've done a ton of work. It's changed quite a bit over a year.
That's cool. That's a cool thing to be able to run.
Yeah, super cool. And I had this old piece of hardware that I bought to run an Ethereum node, and it was part of that scam that I got scammed out of. The hardware wasn't, but it was like connected in my mind, and I was like, I don't want anything to do with that fucking hardware and Ethereum and like trying to run it again. So I just wiped it clean, put Umbrel on it, and then ran this Bitcoin node. So I'll see if I can figure out these Ordinals, Inscriptions, and Runes. So.
Yeah, whole other rabbit hole.
Yeah. 619, I wouldn't run a BTC node in San Diego. I wonder why not. Maybe because of the power thing. It doesn't seem, the power can't be that much. It's just a little box. Can't draw that much. But.
Yeah, or too many of them already. Not
sure maybe, okay. Yeah. I don't understand the Bitcoin system super well. So
me either. Yeah.
Have you paid attention to this HIP 119 thing, closing gaming loopholes? It was HIP 107 was the first attempt. I think that got denied. And then I haven't seen. Good.
No, I haven't been following that one too closely. Mostly focusing on the IoT side of the governance stuff lately. But I do have some updates there.
Shoot, what do you got?
Yeah, so a while back, the community approved, I can't remember our HIP number, but it's the educational LNS.
Cool.
And happy to share, classes in session. The educational LNS is live as of last night.
Oh, exciting.
So we're going to be throwing together some docs, some announcements, and all that stuff. But it is now the case that you can jump in throw a device on this LNS, transfer some data, not worry about data credits, and then in the interest of sort of pushing people into paid services that will self-nuke after 24 hours.
Nice.
But
And when
a
it
really-
self-nukes, can I buy an ad that says, like, go to Medio Scientific?
Yeah, we'll have to sort all this stuff out with Paul. So Paul, that we know from this show,
Oh, Paul's running, okay.
91, yeah. So we effectively contracted him to
Nice.
run this whole thing. So we did a bid, period, and all that stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, he certainly came out on top there.
That dude, he knows what's going on with this stuff. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
So yeah, that's going to be a fun
Okay,
thing.
ripping. So folks can sign up, and you said, how long is it? 3 days or 24 hours? Some short period of time?
Yeah, the device will stay online for 24 hours. It'll, you'll get full access to Class A, Class C, all that fun stuff. So really cool for like lectures or workshops.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm really excited to do is start integrating some of this stuff directly into docs. So, click a button, get some keys from that service, add them, in hard share. Like there's all sorts of like really cool things to start doing there.
Cool.
So yeah, we'll start pushing more of that story soon, but yeah, get people building.
Yeah. No, it's been a fun thing. Ed asked me the other day if my soil moisture sensors are still going, and I've got to look and see if they have. I haven't looked at them in months. But I know the thing is still planted in my garden outside with a little mushroom cover on it. So my guess is that the batteries are dead. It's just 3 AAAs, and it's been there for a year, maybe more. And that's been my experience so far, is that most of these sensors don't last as long as I thought they would. I thought they'd last a couple of years, and they last like 8 months, which is being kind of nitpicky and bitching about it, because 8 months on batteries is pretty good.
Right. I've had some similar stuff, like my temperature humidity sensor that I had out in the forest. The battery died on that one, and it went for 2+ years.
Okay.
But I was expecting, closer to 5, whatever. Yeah. But I think it really just comes down to like, it's the uplink interval, it's the transmit power, it's all that stuff kind of goes into those.
And
so that's why we got to go solar.
What's that?
That's why we got to go solar, energy harvesting.
Yeah. No, I was full circle back to the start of the convo. I think that's a super cool thing. That was actually one of the reasons there's the local paragliding club is working on this, has been working on this weather station for a long time. That's like $150 to build, but it's super, super geeky. And for whatever reason, the guy is not ready to release the code. I've been like, hey, can you just make this public? Because I can get some people that'll probably just be excited to work on it. And for whatever reason, he hasn't done it. And I was like, hey, why haven't we kept working on this? Like, what else is going on? He's like, the solar panels aren't that good. Like, it's just a pain in the ass. The thing keeps dying. And so it's kind of exciting to think that, all right, maybe in the next year or so, there'll be some options for him to cruise in.
Yeah, that stuff's getting better. It's getting cheaper. So excited to see more of that stuff rolling out.
Yeah.
But, I got one other LoRaWAN update.
Oh, shoot.
It's kind of a fun one. So the Helium Foundation is joining the LoRa Alliance board of directors. So
very fancy.
I got nominated a month ago. We got confirmed a day ago. I don't think the announcement has gone out yet.
Dang.
I will be representing Foundation for.
Do you get a fancy
LoRa
title
Alliance.
like super director?
I will take that title. We'll just start using that from now on. Yeah.
Super director. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
cool.
It'll be exciting to sort of like, move Helium's narrative forward with the LoRa Alliance and work with more of the member companies there. So
yeah.
That's
right. I had actually thought you guys were already somehow integrated, but yeah, congrats. As Ed says, congrats. We'll put that.
Yeah.
There you go. Nice, Ed. I don't know if Ed won his the sensor thing. I went in to vote, and the voting was closed on some Twitter thing. But I guess Helium Foundation was running a contest for 4 different projects, and Ed had built something cool. And
yeah,
Ed, if you got a link, we can vote on it. Drop it here. We'll see if we can crush it for you.
Right. So there was there were a couple cool projects in there. It's actually it was hard for me to choose. But yeah, 4 options makes it. Hey, look at all those. Thank you, folks.
Yeah, look at all these nice people. Trophy Yellow smiling. Oh, hell yeah. All right. Yeah, super cool stuff. Oh, the link changes, and there's a new link posted above. Where's the new link posted above, Ed? Yeah. I was farting around with it. I couldn't find it. I was like, oh, I'll just hit you up on this thing. But yeah, super cool to see people building on this thing. I think that what we're seeing now is
It's got 5 days left, so you can still. Yeah.
Dude, Ed, drop the link in here. Let's smash this thing.
I'm sending it to you on Discord, but
Oh, cool. Let's see. X.com.
Okay.
All right. There we go. It's in the chat. Cool. Let's see. Wi-Fi Daba Season 1 closed. They're sending out all their swag. I'm going to just do some regular kind of DePIN stuff, Joey. They're sending out all their swag. You check your emails if you want to get your stuff. I know it seemed like a spam email. I just filled it out because I was like, yeah, whatever. You can have the GK office address. People have that. In fact, this dude, Dan Casado, came by the Paleotreat / Gristleking office the other day and hung out for a bit and pushed some stuff, Hive Mapper info through my little Helium hotspot. So it's kind of cool to see, like, in the real world, this shit is working. And that was super neat to see. I think I've threatened to do this a bunch over the past couple months and just haven't made time for it. But I want to put a poster that's like all the different DePIN projects, put that on the Paleotreats window and just be like, hey, if you want to know about DePIN, hit any of these things. Yeah, that'd be super cool. Ooh, Joey equals the goat. That's a good one. Nice, Keenan. I'll make that big enough so you can see that it's a goat, not like a donkey. All right. Nice, Keenan. Cool. So that was the Wi-Fi Daba stuff. Just check your email. They're sending out a bunch of swag. DIMO's got 80,000 vehicles online. They had this, I thought it was like a funny thing. They're like, hey, we got 80,000 vehicles online. Help us beat Big Auto. And I'm like, damn, that is just not a lot of vehicles when you're going up against Big Auto. But kind of cool to see, like, no one's really paying attention to it yet. And at some point it'll be like, oh, they've got 40 million vehicles. And by then, hopefully it's too late and we have an entirely new system of being rad.
I mean, 80,000's still pretty sweet, but yeah, big numbers need to get bigger. But
it's cool to see that stuff. Kevin, you're supposed to work on that poster. Yeah, I've got like something halfway done. I'll send you a Canva link, Kevin, and we'll see if we can go back and forth on it. Although Kevin likes to work in the professional world of Adobe, which I'm good on the video side, but fuck the drawing side or illustration side. Canva's so much easier. Joey, are you going to Consensus? I think it's in Austin, right? It's got to be in Austin.
Yes, I was requested to go. I need to book my flight today. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I think Max is going to be there. I keep kicking around the idea of maybe going there, maybe not. But I've got another trip. I'm going to go see my sister in June, so I don't want to be flying too much. And she's in England.
Yeah, my girlfriend's trying to get me to book a vacation. She's like, you're on planes too much. But
this whole vacation thing is, I haven't done it for a while. Get after and do it. Although I am going up, hiking up San Gorgonio on Saturday, so it's like a mini one-day vacation.
I still owe that trip. We're going to get me down there. We're going to go on a hike before it gets too hot.
Yeah. Let's do something cool. Be good.
Yeah.
And then Hive Mapper said they're updating their Discord. So that's the giant news from Hive Mapper is they're changing their Discord around.
It's a heavier lift than you would imagine.
I shouldn't make fun of it because it is a huge pain in the ass. And like, if you don't do it all the time, I've seen some, WeatherXM just hired this dude. Well, not just a month or two ago, Leo, to work on their Discord. And that dude just went to town on it, cleaned it up, made it way better, made it super easy for the mods to do all this stuff to it. And it's like, oh, that's what happens when you have someone who actually knows how to run Discord. Super cool. So yeah, it is a big lift. I shouldn't make fun of it. It was just,
it's an art. No, I know.
Easy
it's like not
little gut punch.
doesn't feel like shipping product. Hive Mapper's been making some moves though. Like, I think they did a whole new firmware revision so that like the device is meant to act more passively and you don't have to like sync it with your phone and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I like what they're doing. I like RL. I like that company. With the Hive Mapper that I've got, there always seems to be 100,000 images in the backlog that just don't seem to go onto my phone. And then once they're on the phone, I guess I'll get like 3,000 on there, but I'm like, dude, that's 3%. It takes forever. But it's probably that I just don't drive enough. So
when I was doing, I mean, we've talked about this. Mine got stolen when my truck got stolen, but
someone earning for you? Be so great.
We actually tried to go look, but no, nobody's plugged it in. I gotta go see if maybe we'll ask them again.
Yeah.
But I actually had a rig set up in my shop with a cigarette lighter adapter, so I could power the thing outside of my car and download all the images and then upload the images. So, moving to this direction of like being more passive to the upload and all that stuff, it's pretty key, I think, for that project.
Yeah. Max has always been super big on that. And I used to think he was wrong, where he's like, hey, you've got to be able to plug it in once and then walk away and never touch it again. And I always get like stuck in the kind of first week love affair with all these devices, just like this rabbit. Like it's here, it's at hand for this next week. I guarantee I'll have this thing like in my pocket or next to me. And I'll bet by like day 9, I forget that it exists. And then someone will remind me in like 4 months and be like, oh yeah, that thing, let me go check it out. And there'll be like 900 updates on it. And I think for these DePIN things where you want to have this persistent, durable network, it has to be like plug and play.
Yeah. No, this is something that I learned when I was working much more on the Mappers project. Is like there's people who are going to set the thing up, they're going to go walk around their town a little bit, or they'll throw it in their car, and eventually it's going to stop working. And there's a lot of conversations early on of like, oh, we could use Mappers to do proof of coverage, like all this kind of stuff, but you can't map every gateway in the world with a fleet of things where people are only going to play with it for a week. And so that's kind of, there's been evolutions of that now. We've got DIMO, right? Like you plug this thing into your car and you forget about it. It's passively like participating in the network. So some of those opportunities have renewed. I'm getting into like my IoT working group.
Yeah.
Like,
No, you're totally right.
Now, but yeah.
Fucking Keenan tried to call me out my Flipper Zero. I did generally forget about that thing. It's in here somewhere, Keenan. Let me fucking pull it out and prove that it still exists.
Yeah. But your Apple Vision Pro, like, I don't know.
Oh, I didn't get one of those. I really wanted those, but it's like, God damn. Maybe I lost that thing. No, it's in here somewhere. There it is. Yahtzee. There you go, Keenan. It still exists. I haven't turned it on for a while though. Yeah, my wife has been a super good dampener on my like obsessive desires for a week, where she's like, hey, no, don't buy that. If you still want to buy it in a month, like go for it. And I don't think there's been a single thing that a month later I'm like, oh, I still have to have that.
Yep. Yeah. You don't actually need that pre-order. It'll be there for you.
Yeah. That's right, Keenan. I scanned your passport with a Flipper Zero. I used that while I was in New York. While I was there with Keenan to go in and out of the place I was staying. They had like some Bluetooth, or they had some electronic key thing, and the Flipper Zero had this mode where it's just like, oh yeah, push this one button and you copy the key, and then you can use the Flipper Zero to go in instead of the key, and that was super cool. And the guy left the key outside in a box, and so I told him, I was like, hey, let's go try this thing, and I couldn't scan it through the box, but I'll bet anything that some nerd would be able to put like an external antenna on that and an amplifier and scan that key, and it's a security risk. So
yeah, it makes you think about things a little differently.
No, it's a neat thing to think about all these things. Let's see what else is going on. Couple projects coming down the line for me that are, I think they're not in stealth, but they're in stealth as far as like Goldhawk's public participation. So we'll have some exciting stuff to talk about in the next weeks, months, whatever. Super cool stuff coming down the line there. And I think what we are seeing is that these projects are going to start integrating and working with each other in the same way that Helium has been working with Hive Mapper and DIMO and that stuff. Is that more and more of these projects are going to come in and say like, okay, we're going to do this. And one of the big giant things that I see is this proof of location being like a problem for like a rock solid proof of location solution that a DePIN project has that's like unassailable and easy to integrate is going to be this bomber thing for people. But it seems right now it requires extra hardware. We've been talking to this one group and saying like, hey, why don't you guys put some whatever a LoRaWAN chip on the thing that you have, and then we can use helium. But it's still not quite there. So you just have to put a piece of hardware on a thing that on hardware that's already been made. So it's a big ask.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's usually not too hard to integrate, but yeah, bill of materials and all of the production pipeline stuff, that's where things add up. Easy to do as a proof of concept, not easy to do in scale.
Yeah, I mean, this is like total hand wavy bullshit, but I would love to see something. Ooh, do I have something? Yeah. Like this stupid little USB stick. I got this when I got my fucking Volkswagen. Like one of these things that's a proof of location stick, and you can plug it into anything that you want to. And as long as that thing has power and whatever, there's some like hand wavy bullshit, like a connection talking between the USB stick and the box, I could plug that into anything and it'll be proof that the box is where it says it is. And because that thing has, I'm just making this up, has like some LoRaWAN thing in it. That way you can take hardware that's already made, and instead of saying like, oh, you've got to solder this thing in, it's like, nope. Anything you want to prove where it is, you just plug that little USB stick in. It's got a cryptographic chip. It's got the whatever time delay variable, like figure out your fancy physical shit. That would be super, super cool to see that get rolled out, because then anything you have, any box that has USB port, and they fucking all do because everyone builds them on that base, starts to be like, oh yeah, that's not in some fucking server in, South America. It's actually here.
Yeah.
So
I had some interesting conversations with Ublox. So like, how can you get GPS cheaper? And they're basically like, no. It was kind of a frustrating, like it's not even that they can't do it, they just won't do it. Like they make too much money off of that stuff to like try to work with folks to like bring bill of materials down and things like that. Like it's just a premium thing for them.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know that like the GeoNet Onakoi folks, they've got the GPS side, but I'm pretty sure that requires some like hardware receiver thing.
Yeah.
And maybe they're the ones that they end up building that thing, the little USB stick, and they're like, yeah, this is something that anyone can use, and whatever, maybe the project pays for it too.
Even it's like a proof of concept to like show people RTK in action, because like it's still a pretty, even for the people participating in that project, I bet most of them don't understand RTK, which is, it's basically it's an augmentation layer for GPS. Like you say like, oh, I think I'm here, and the thing will come back and say like, oh, actually offset that by like 2 feet and you're good.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it took me a long time to wrap my head around it. And there's still aspects of RTK that I don't totally understand, or like I don't have natively. I've got to sit down and write it out. But there's some really interesting pieces where the proof of location ends up being, if you have a big enough network, unassailable by even, maybe not, state actors, but like super close to being, you can prove location whether or not a state actor is trying to interfere with it. So that starts to get, maybe not the fucking Russians, because they seem to be crushing things in Ukraine with that stuff, but for most folks.
Well, yeah, if you turn off this, if you jam GPS, it's the whole thing. Yeah, I'm not going to send us down that rabbit hole right now.
Yeah, no, that goes into crazy security stuff. Although when I was learning about that stuff, and I'll still like interact with it when I talk to folks, just in like every so often you'll meet someone who's in that world. And the radio fuckery that is going on in Ukraine is amazing. Like I got to give props, as much as I don't like it, to the adversaries there, because they're just fucking crushing.
Mm. Yeah, it's a cat and mouse game too. It's like somebody will jam one thing, they'll move to a different frequency, or like whatever.
And I think it ends up, as horrible as it is with folks dying and this, the rottenness of war, is that war in many cases has these really good side effects of kind of pressure makes diamonds. And so where we didn't really need to find a solution for filtering out super congested radio space, if it hasn't happened already and the NSA just isn't talking about it, it's going to happen in the next whatever, like 3 months or whatever.
Yeah.
Like some
I mean,
super-
I'll throw my big one out there, which is Niantec, the company behind Pokemon Go.
Okay.
Is actually it's visual location solving.
Huh.
So you go around with your camera, catch Pokemon, and you're doing this AR thing all around you, right? You're collecting data of the environment around you, and you can aggregate all of that stuff and train machine learning models on it, and then you can give it a picture and say, where am I? And it'll tell you exactly where it is. So you can, within centimeters, locate yourself within urban settings through all of this data that was collected through games like Pokemon Go.
Oh, badass.
So like
And so,
their whole product is actually that.
have you seen, so that sounds like the OVR, over the reality. Maybe it's OTR. I think it's OVR. They do something that sounds at least adjacent, where they'll go in and I think they go in and scan like a business like Paleo Treats, and then maybe they have cameras in there and they start to be able to know, as you said, to the centimeter, like where someone is or something is. So it's like, oh, where did I put all of those, whatever, barrels of collagen or tubs of collagen or small like sticks of LMNT, like these little salt things that are that big, finger wide. And it'll be like, oh yeah, they're right there. I'll talk you to exactly where they are to the centimeter. So that same kind of thing through the enormous amount of data that comes from images. So
Yeah.
badass.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, dude.
One other little plug
Yeah.
I'll throw in here, and then we can wrap this up. But Baxis is maybe a company we've talked about on the show.
Carrie at
but,
Baxis. She's come on. We've talked to her. Totally.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, Carrie and Todd, the co-founders there, they announced their $5 million seed round today.
Oh, badass.
And so they do, this. It's the physical asset. What do they call that in the crypto space? I'm drawing a blank, but
some tracking.
Bottles of whiskey, barrels of whiskey, all that kind of stuff. You can
Yep.
tokenize and then trade them on chain. But they're also doing some really cool stuff with Helium around tracking barrels that I think some cool stuff's going to be announced on that soon. So keep an eye on Baxis. They're doing really cool stuff.
Let's see if I can get them. There they are, Baxis. That thing.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah.
They've been on this thing for a while. Like I think Carrie came on this show when it was still Helium only, and that was 2 years ago or something. Like they're sticking with it.
Yeah. I met them at like a Solana workspace thing in New York.
Yeah, years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah. And so they've been cranking on it ever since.
They're crushing.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, dude. Good to see you. Good to check in. Welcome back to America. It's always good to come home to straight lines and street lights, even though Europe is pretty close to that. But yeah,
it was a good time. Yeah, kept very, very busy. So,
I'll bet.
All right. Well, I'll catch you in a week, and have a good one.
See you next week. Lates. Thanks for coming on, guys. We're out.